The moment Franklin saw the surveillance footage of Erica handing over his encrypted client files to Sam Westcott, his world shattered. This wasn't just an affair, it was a calculated corporate betrayal. As the Westcotts' plan to dismantle his company unfolded before his eyes, he realized the woman he loved had been their inside operative all along. Colin Franklin Caldwell stood on his vast beachfront deck, observing the California sunset cast golden reflections upon the Pacific Ocean. At 35, he had constructed his security consulting firm from nothing into a dominant force that safeguarded the digital assets for half of the Fortune 500 companies. The ocean breeze carried the aroma of salt and the scent of his success. Yet, something felt distinctly off-kilter within his seemingly perfect world. His wife, Erica, moved through their Malibu home with a growing sense of detachment. 6 years of marriage had transformed their relationship from a passionate connection into a carefully measured distance. Franklin's instincts, the very ones that had rescued him from poverty and generated his wealth, were now screaming warnings at him. Working late again, he inquired as Erica collected her car keys. Her blonde hair was styled perfectly, and her makeup, while subtle, was flawless. It seemed excessive for the charity board meeting she professed to be attending. "The fundraiser planning won't finish itself," she replied, avoiding direct eye contact. "Don't wait up for me." As her Porsche vanished down the winding coastal road, Franklin returned to his home office and unlocked a concealed compartment within his desk. Inside rested a small tracking device and a printed report from a private investigator. For 3 months, he had been accumulating evidence, with each new discovery cutting more deeply than the last. The Caldwells had emerged from humble beginnings. Franklin was raised in a Rust Belt town by parents who believed firmly in hard work and little else. When he demonstrated a technological aptitude, they sacrificed everything for his education. Their modest savings, second mortgages, and extra jobs were all invested in their only son's future. Erica had been present for the final stage of his ascent. As the daughter of a wealthy family unacquainted with struggle, her parents had initially disapproved, preferring someone from their own social circle. However, Franklin's rapid success eventually silenced their objections. Now, watching the tracking dot on his phone move not toward the charity headquarters, but toward a boutique hotel in Santa Elena, Franklin felt a cold sensation settle in his chest. He poured himself 2 fingers of bourbon and opened his laptop. The message from his investigator contained hotel surveillance photos. His wife entering an elevator alongside neurosurgeon Sam Westcott, the son of West Coast hospital magnate Preston Westcott, and Erica's college sweetheart from before she met Franklin. Betrayal from Erica was painful. Betrayal involving Ben Westcott was an entirely different matter. Franklin set down his glass and made a call. "Sky, I need everything on the Westcotts. All of it. Financial records, personal scandals, offshore accounts, whatever you can uncover." Sky Romano had been his first hire. A brilliant hacker, he recruited her directly from a federal prison work release program. Her loyalty was absolute, forged after Franklin gave her a second chance when no one else would. "Boss, are we discussing corporate espionage or a personal matter?" Her voice conveyed concern. She was aware of his suspicions. "Both," Franklin stated. "I am accelerating the timeline." Staring at the photos Sky had compiled for the contingency package, he added, "All of it." "That is serious, potentially deadly," Sky responded. Franklin closed his laptop and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows. His reflection stared back at him, successful, powerful, and betrayed. He had built his life through strategic thinking and relentless determination. Those who mistook his quiet demeanor for weakness never anticipated his ruthlessness until it was too late. As darkness descended over the ocean, Franklin made another call, this time to his parents in Ohio. "Mom, about Christmas, there has been a change of plans," he began, initiating a second chapter of verification. The Westcott family possessed everything Franklin lacked: generations of wealth, extensive social connections, and the kind of old money prestige that is not for sale. What they did not possess was his intelligence or his hunger. For the next week, Franklin became a ghost in his own life. He attended business meetings, smiled at dinner parties, and slept beside Erica while methodically and precisely gathering evidence. Each night, after she fell asleep, he sat in his study reviewing surveillance footage, bank statements, and hotel receipts. The affair had persisted for 11 months, commencing shortly after Ben Westcott returned from a Doctors Without Borders stint in Africa, conveniently divorced, and practicing at the same hospital where Erica volunteered. The pieces are falling into place, Sky reported during their secure call. The Westcott's finances are messier than they appear. Preston Westcott's liquidity issues are significant. Several medical centers are underwater, and they have been discreetly selling properties. And the charity connection? Franklin asked. Your intuition was correct. The foundation Erica works with has received major donations from Westcott Holdings, a perfect cover for their meetings. Franklin absorbed the information silently. The betrayal extended beyond the physical affair. Erica had been divulging details about his business, security vulnerabilities, client lists, and expansion plans. His wife was betraying not only their marriage, but also attempting to undermine the empire he had constructed. The motive became clear when Franklin discovered correspondence between Preston Westcott and Erica. The elder Westcott had never accepted his son's brief marriage to someone he considered a nobody like Erica Turner. Now, with Ben divorced and the Westcott medical empire requiring an infusion of technological expertise and capital, they perceived an opportunity. Reunite Erica with Ben, gain access to Franklin's business acumen and assets, and then discard him. For the Westcotts, it was about preserving their dynasty. For Erica, it was a return to the social circle she had never truly abandoned. The final piece clicked into place when documents revealed Erica had consulted with divorce attorneys specializing in aggressive asset seizure. Franklin knew it was time to act. On a rainy Tuesday, he followed Erica to the Rhonda Hills Hotel. The exclusive bungalows offered privacy for the wealthy, but wealth could not overcome Franklin's determination. He generously compensated a hotel employee for access to the adjoining suite and installed recording equipment through the wall. He heard everything: their laughter, their passion, their plans. Once the divorce is finalized, we will have enough leverage to force him to sell, Erica said. Your father's contacts will ensure the judge is sympathetic. Dad has already lined up partners to acquire his security firm once we devalue it, Ben replied. Franklin will not comprehend what hit him until it is too late. Christmas at his parents' will be our final appearance as a couple, Erica continued. I will play the devoted wife one last time. Those simple people always loved me more than him anyway. At that moment, Franklin felt something harden within him. Not merely his heart, but his resolve. The Westcotts had underestimated him. Erica had forgotten his core identity, someone who had clawed his way up from nothing and would never permit himself to be forced back down. He gathered his equipment and departed the hotel, the rain mingling with a single tear that escaped before he banished all emotion entirely. By the time he reached his car, Franklin Caldwell had reconstructed himself into something new, something devoid of mercy. He called his lawyer, then his financial advisor, and finally Sky. Execute the containment protocols, he instructed. All of them. Are you certain, boss? Sky asked. There is no returning from this. I am not the one who needs to be concerned about returning, Franklin replied, watching Erica's car exit the hotel driveway. Make the arrangements, and Sky, send the first set of files to my father. Chapter 3. Christmas Revelation. The Caldwell family home in Ohio remained unchanged. A modest two-story colonial house with faded blue shutters and meticulously maintained gardens. Franklin's parents had declined his offers to purchase a more luxurious residence, preferring to remain where they had raised their son and built their lives. Franklin arrived 2 days before Erica, citing business obligations. Those days were spent in quiet discussions with his parents, presenting them with evidence of his wife's betrayal and the Westcott conspiracy. Mike and Sadie Caldwell listened in stunned silence, their initial disbelief gradually transforming into protective anger. They had welcomed Erica into their family, treated her as a daughter, and defended her when relatives questioned her commitment to their son. I need you to follow my lead, Franklin explained, detailing his plan. It must unfold precisely this way. Sadie wiped tears from her eyes. Are you certain there is no alternative? Mom, they are not merely attempting to end my marriage. They want to obliterate everything I have built, everything we sacrificed for, Franklin said, holding his mother's hands. Do you trust me? With everything, she answered, straightening her posture. The stage was set when Erica arrived on Christmas Eve, performing the part of the devoted wife to perfection. She warmly embraced Franklin's parents, distributed expensive gifts, and recounted her charitable activities with practiced humility. Only Franklin could detect the calculation behind her smiles, the subtle glances at her watch when she believed no one was observing. Christmas morning arrived with fresh snow and the aroma of Sadie's cinnamon rolls. The family gathered around the modestly decorated tree, exchanging gifts with careful ceremony. Franklin watched Erica open her presents with feigned delight while texting covertly, undoubtedly updating Ben Westcott on her progress. Following the main gift exchange, Sadie disappeared into the kitchen and returned with a small box wrapped in silver paper. "Erica, dear," she said with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Mike and I have one more special gift for you." Sadie handed Erica the box. Inside lay a single key attached to a keychain shaped like a house. "We bought you a house for starting a new life," Sadie announced, her voice carrying unusual weight. "You will understand someday, Franklin." Confusion flickered across Erica's face before she masked it with gratitude. "That is incredibly generous. I do not know what to say." "It is what you deserve," Mike added pointedly. Erica glanced at Franklin, clearly attempting to determine if this unexpected gift might disrupt her plans. He remained expressionless, taking a deliberate sip of coffee. "I have one more gift," Franklin announced, retrieving a small envelope from beneath the tree. "For Dad." Mike opened it carefully, extracting a single sheet of paper. As he read, the color drained from his face. "Is this real?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Franklin nodded. "Every word." Erica shifted uncomfortably. "What is it?" "Evidence," Mike replied coldly, passing the paper to Sadie, whose expression hardened as she read, "of what you and the Westcotts have been planning." The confusion on Erica's face transformed into shock, then fear. "I do not know what you are talking about." Franklin finally turned to face his wife directly. "The key is not to a house, Erica. It is to a safe deposit box containing copies of everything. The hotel recordings, your meetings with divorce attorneys, the conversations with Preston Westcott about dismantling my company." "You were investigating me?" Her voice rose with indignation that quickly withered under the collective Caldwell glare. "The key represents a choice," Franklin continued calmly. "Walk away now with what you brought into this marriage, or fight me and lose everything, including your freedom. Corporate espionage carries significant penalties." Erica's composure fractured. "You cannot prove anything." Sadie stood abruptly, seeming taller than her petite frame. "We have heard the recordings, dear, including your remarks about us. These simple people who supposedly loved you more than our own son." "The Westcotts miscalculated," Franklin said, standing as well. "They believed my parents were sentimental fools who would pressure me to reconcile. They failed to realize that in this family, loyalty means everything." As the full implications dawned on Erica, her face contorted with rage. "You believe you have won? Ben's family has connections you cannot imagine. They will destroy you." Franklin's smile was devoid of warmth. "Actually, I have just begun. While we have been opening presents, the SEC and FBI have been serving warrants to the Westcott Medical Group based on evidence of Medicare fraud and tax evasion I uncovered during my investigation of you." The color drained from Erica's face as she fumbled for her phone. The screen displayed dozens of missed calls. "Your boyfriend's family empire is collapsing as we speak," Franklin continued. "The house key is symbolic, Erica. It represents the life you chose, one constructed on lies. What happens next depends entirely on you." Rising unsteadily, Erica grabbed her coat. "This is not over, Franklin." "For us, it is," he replied. "Divorce papers will be delivered tomorrow. Sign them, disappear from my life, and you might salvage something. Fight me, and I will ensure you and the Westcotts regret every moment of your betrayal." When the door slammed behind her, Sadie placed a hand on her son's shoulder. "Are you okay?" Franklin watched through the window as Erica's car skidded down the snowy driveway. "I will be." What he did not reveal was that the Christmas confrontation was merely the opening move in a game the Westcotts did not yet realize they were playing. Erica had been a pawn, important but ultimately expendable. The real targets were still enjoying their holiday champagne, unaware that their world was already burning. Chapter 4. Opening salvos. The first strike against the Westcotts made national news 3 days after Christmas. Federal agents raided Westcott Memorial Hospital in Los Angeles, hauling away servers and financial records, while reporters captured Preston Westcott's stunned expression as he was escorted to a waiting car, not in handcuffs, but clearly shaken. Franklin watched the coverage from his Malibu home, with Sky beside him monitoring social media reactions. "They are labeling it a routine compliance investigation," she reported. "Westcott's team is spinning vigorously, claiming it is a misunderstanding." "What about Sam?" "No public statement yet. He canceled all surgeries for the week, citing personal reasons." Franklin nodded, satisfied with the initial chaos. The evidence he had provided to authorities through anonymous channels was damning, but largely circumstantial, sufficient for search warrants and uncomfortable inquiries, but not necessarily for prosecutions. The legal action was a diversion designed to destabilize while he implemented his true strategy. "Their stock has already dropped 12%, Sky added, just from the uncertainty. The buzzing of Franklin's phone interrupted their conversation. The caller ID displayed Erica's attorney, a predictably aggressive litigator from a prestigious Rhonda Hills firm. "Mr. Caldwell, my client rejects your proposed settlement terms. We will be filing for an equitable division of all marital assets, including your holdings." Franklin's laughter was genuine. "Inform your client to review her prenuptial agreement. Prenuptial agreements can be invalidated under specific conditions, such as infidelity coupled with documented corporate espionage." "Interesting strategy," Franklin replied. "I anticipate discovery, where I will be compelled to submit all evidence of your client's activities into the court record. I am certain the Westcotts will appreciate their personal communications becoming public while they are under federal investigation." The attorney's hesitation was audible. "We should discuss this further. My terms are non-negotiable and expire in 48 hours. After that, I will release everything." When the call concluded, Sky raised an eyebrow. "Do you believe she will concede?" "Erica is not the fighter she imagines herself to be," Franklin replied. "She desires luxury and status, not legal battles and public humiliation." The following day confirmed he was correct. Erica finalized the divorce agreement, giving up any rights to Franklin's business and assets in exchange for a modest financial settlement. This arrangement would support her lifestyle temporarily, providing enough time to secure another wealthy patron if the Westcott family abandoned her. However, the Westcotts were not going to retreat quietly. That same evening, Franklin's main banking partner called, his voice tense with worry. "Franklin, I'm not sure what's going on, but Preston Westcott just withdrew his foundation's support from our annual charity gala. He also hinted that other donors might follow if we keep working with your firm." Additional calls soon followed. Clients reported feeling pressured, and business partners voiced concerns about their association with Franklin. The Westcotts were clearly leveraging their social influence against him. "It's a predictable countermove," Sky observed, noting the sudden surge of negative reviews and vague accusations appearing across business forums. Standard character assassination playbook. Franklin remained unruffled. "Let them waste resources on traditional tactics. Execute Phase 2. Phase 2 commenced with a series of anonymous tips sent to financial journalists, exposing the Westcott family's overextended investments and cash flow difficulties. Franklin's team had identified 7 major Westcott properties with underwater mortgages and quietly arranged for the loans to be purchased through shell companies under his control. At the same time, he placed a single phone call to Preston Westcott's primary competitor in the healthcare industry, Raker Healthcare. "Mr. Raker, how would you like exclusive access to the most advanced security system in healthcare, along with detailed intelligence on Westcott vulnerabilities?" 2 days later, the announcement of a strategic partnership between Caldwell Security and Raker Healthcare sent shockwaves through the medical sector. The Westcotts, who had earlier rejected Franklin's proposals in favor of a plan to acquire his company after the divorce, now faced their largest competitor armed with his expertise. The counterattack intensified when Sam Westcott discovered he had been removed from the staff rotation at his hospital following anonymous complaints about his conduct with female patients. These complaints had been carefully curated by Franklin from legitimate grievances that Westcott influence had previously suppressed. That night, an enraged Sam confronted Franklin outside his office building. Security cameras captured the neurosurgeon shoving Franklin against his car. "You think you can destroy my family just because my girlfriend got tired of you?" Ben snarled, his usually perfect appearance disheveled from stress. Franklin calmly straightened his tie. Dr. Westcott, I'd think twice about putting your hands on me, especially when there are witnesses. You're destroying lives over wounded pride. No, Franklin replied coldly. I'm responding proportionally to a coordinated attack. You and your father planned to strip me of everything I built. Erica was merely your entry point. Ben's expression flickered with surprise before he leaned in again. This isn't over. My family has survived worse than you. Franklin took a step closer. Your father's generation built something from nothing. You inherited privilege without understanding its foundation. That's why you'll lose everything, while I keep building. As security personnel approached, Ben backed away. Watch your back, Caldwell. Not everything can be protected by your systems. Franklin smiled faintly. That sounded remarkably like a threat, Doctor. Perhaps I should add it to the file. When Ben stormed off, Franklin's phone buzzed with a message from Sky. They just discovered the loans. Moving to Phase 3. Not yet, Franklin replied. They need to feel truly desperate first. Chapter 5, Desperate Measures. The Westcott family's annual charity gala had been a cornerstone of Los Angeles high society for decades. This year, however, Preston Westcott found himself making uncomfortable calls to longtime supporters, explaining the scaled-back event. Just temporary cash flow issues, he assured them, his once commanding voice now edged with strain. These federal inquiries are baseless distractions. What Preston couldn't explain was why 4 major hospitals in his network had suddenly experienced catastrophic IT failures, why key physicians were receiving better offers from competitors, or why banks were abruptly calling in loans that had previously been extended without issue. Franklin observed the disintegration from a calculated distance, his own company thriving with new partnerships and innovations. When Raker Healthcare announced plans to acquire 3 struggling Westcott facilities, industry analysts cited systematic mismanagement as the cause of the Westcott decline. What no one outside Franklin's inner circle understood was how deliberately orchestrated each setback had been. They're selling their Aspen property, Sky reported during their weekly update. Below market value, cash sale. Franklin nodded. And Sam's privileges have been suspended at 2 more hospitals pending reviews. The medical board is now involved. The pressure was building exactly as planned, forcing the Westcotts toward increasingly desperate countermeasures. When Franklin's home security system detected an intrusion attempt, he wasn't surprised, only disappointed by the amateurish approach. The real blow came when Preston Westcott arranged a meeting with Senator Howard Prescott, chair of the Cybersecurity Subcommittee and a longtime family friend. 3 days later, Franklin received notice that his company was under investigation for potential security violations related to government contracts. They're using regulatory harassment, Franklin told his executive team during an emergency meeting. Classic move when direct attacks fail. This could freeze our federal contracts, his CFO warned. The timing couldn't be worse with our expansion. Franklin remained impassive. I anticipated this. We've maintained perfect compliance precisely because I expected someone would try this angle. What he didn't share was that Senator Prescott's son had once approached Caldwell Security with a proposal to compromise client data for political leverage, an overture Franklin had meticulously documented before rejecting. That insurance policy was about to become useful. Meanwhile, Erica reemerged, breaking her calculated silence with a tearful interview given to a sympathetic journalist. She claimed emotional abuse and control throughout her marriage, painting Franklin as a paranoid, ruthless businessman who had fabricated her affair to justify his cruelty. The Westcotts had finally identified his one vulnerability, public perception. While Franklin could fight financial and legal battles with cold precision, character assassination required a different approach. That evening, as negative headlines multiplied and clients called with concerns, Franklin received an unexpected visitor at his home. Sadie Caldwell stood on his doorstep, determination etched on her weathered face. "Mom, what are you doing in California?" She brushed past him, setting down her sensible luggage. "Did you think I'd let that woman drag your name through the mud without a response?" Franklin nearly smiled. "I can handle Erica." "Not like a mother can," Sadie replied, pulling a folder from her purse. "I brought every letter, every card, every gift she ever sent us, including the ones where she complained about you working too hard while asking for money for her charity projects. I've also brought her college roommate, Miguel, who's staying at a hotel nearby, and has quite a different perspective on Erica's character. Franklin's momentary surprise gave way to appreciation for his mother's strategic thinking. "You've been planning this." "Of course," Sadie said briskly. "Your father and I didn't build our life by being passive when our family is threatened. Now call that reporter who interviewed her." A mother's perspective makes a compelling counter-narrative. Sadie's interview, supported by documentation and testimony from Erica's former friends, effectively neutralized the sympathy campaign. The narrative shifted from Franklin as a controlling husband to Franklin as the victim of opportunism, a storyline the business community found far more palatable. The Westcotts, growing increasingly desperate, escalated further. Sam confronted Franklin at a medical technology conference, creating a scene that required security intervention. Preston attempted to leverage old connections to interfere with Caldwell Security's international licensing. Most alarmingly, Franklin's head of physical security intercepted a private investigator attempting to plant listening devices in his home office, a felony that traced back to a shell company with Westcott connections. "They're getting reckless," Skye observed. "Dangerously good," Franklin replied. "Desperation leads to mistakes." The breaking point came when Preston Westcott, facing imminent financial collapse, attempted a last desperate gambit. He approached one of Franklin's largest clients with fabricated evidence of security vulnerabilities in Caldwell systems, claiming personal data was being compromised. The client, following established protocols, immediately alerted Franklin. "They've crossed the final line," Franklin told Skye after reviewing the falsified documents. Begin Phase 3. Chapter 6. Crossroads. 3 months after Christmas, Preston Westcott received a call from his bank. The remaining loans on his medical buildings, loans he believed were held by various financial institutions, had all been acquired by a single entity, Monarch Holdings. They're demanding immediate repayment of $87 million, his financial advisor explained, voice tight with stress. "All of it across all properties. Due in 15 days. "That's impossible. These loans have years left on their terms." "The terms include acceleration clauses in case of default on any single property," the advisor replied. "And you missed payments on the Santa Yvonne facility last month." Preston felt cold sweat forming at his temples. "Negotiate an extension. Explain our temporary situation." "I've tried. They're not interested in negotiation. They specifically said to inform you that terms are non-negotiable." The phrase struck Preston like a physical blow, the exact words Franklin Caldwell had used regarding Erica's divorce settlement. With sinking certainty, he realized who controlled Monarch Holdings. Simultaneously, Sam Westcott received notice that the medical board was expanding its investigation into his conduct, now including testimony from 3 former patients and a nurse who claimed to have witnessed inappropriate behavior. The Westcott family gathered at their Rhonda Hills mansion that evening. Preston, his wife Alicia, Sam, and their daughter Audrey, who had flown in from New York. The atmosphere was funereal. "How bad is it?" Audrey asked, her Harvard Business School training causing her to assess the situation clinically. "We're looking at bankruptcy if we can't refinance $87 million in 2 weeks, Preston admitted. "Most of our liquid assets are tied up in legal defense or have been used to cover operating shortfalls." Sam poured himself a third scotch. "This is all about Erica. If she hadn't gotten involved with me, this started before Erica." Audrey interrupted sharply. "You and Dad decided to target Caldwell's company because you needed his technology and didn't want to pay market value. Erica was just your entry point." Alicia Westcott's carefully maintained composure cracked slightly. "We need to approach Caldwell directly, offer a truce." "He won't speak to any of us," Sam replied bitterly. "I've tried. His security won't even let me into the building." Audrey, who had remained largely separate from her family's machinations, studied her father and brother with new clarity. "You still don't understand what you're dealing with, do you? Franklin Caldwell isn't like the trust fund rivals you've outmaneuvered before. He's a self-made survivor with nothing to lose." "We're Westcotts," Preston responded automatically. "Our family has stood for something in this community for generations. And he knows that's your vulnerability," Audrey countered. "You care about legacy and appearance. He only cares about justice, as he defines it." A heavy silence fell over the room, broken when Preston's phone rang. The caller ID showed their family attorney. "Preston, I've just received a settlement offer from Caldwell's team. It's unusually specific. As the attorney outlined the terms, Preston's face paled. Caldwell was offering to consolidate and refinance all Westcott debt under reasonable terms, drop his assistance to regulatory investigations, and cease all actions against the family, with conditions. First, Preston would resign from all hospital leadership positions, transferring control to Audrey rather than Sam. Second, Sam would voluntarily surrender his medical license pending full investigation of all complaints. Third, the Westcotts would issue a public apology to Franklin for unfounded accusations and interference with his business. "He's dismantling our family piece by piece," Preston whispered after ending the call, "making Audrey his ally against us." Audrey shook her head. "He's offering salvation through me because I'm the only one who wasn't involved in your scheme. He's separating the guilty from the innocent." "We can't accept these terms," Sam protested. "It would destroy everything." "And what's your alternative?" Audrey demanded. "Financial ruin? Criminal charges? Dad, you planned to dismantle someone's life work because it was convenient for your expansion plans. Did you really think there wouldn't be consequences?" Franklin received updates on the Westcott family meeting from Skye, who had developed sources within their household staff. "They're divided," she reported. "Audrey is arguing for acceptance. The men are resisting." Franklin nodded, unsurprised. "And Alicia? Practical. She understands their position is untenable." Pouring himself a rare glass of celebration bourbon, Franklin gazed out at the Pacific. His parents had taught him that revenge was a luxury poor men couldn't afford, but justice was a necessity no man should live without. "Prepare the final documentation," he instructed. "They have until midnight tomorrow to decide." As Franklin sipped his bourbon, his phone buzzed with an unexpected name, Erica. He hesitated before answering. "Franklin." Her voice carried none of its usual confidence. "I need to talk to you. We have nothing to discuss. The Westcotts are planning something desperate. Sam has been drinking, talking about making you pay, personally. I'm concerned." Franklin's laugh held no humor. "Now you develop a conscience? Or did they just cut you loose when you became a liability?" Her silence confirmed his suspicion. "Whatever they're planning," Franklin said coldly, "won't change the outcome. The difference between us, Erica, is that I anticipated every scenario, including betrayal. They never considered I might fight back." After ending the call, Franklin contacted his security team to implement heightened protocols. Sam Westcott's deteriorating stability represented an unpredictable variable, the only kind Franklin truly respected as dangerous. That night, as the Westcotts argued about their limited options, Franklin reviewed his contingency plans one final time. Whatever decision they reached, he was prepared. Unlike his opponents, he had calculated every move, not just 3 steps ahead, but all the way to the endgame. Chapter 7. Crossing the Rubicon. When Preston Westcott failed to respond by the midnight deadline, Franklin was neither surprised nor disappointed. Men like Preston, who inherited rather than built their empires, typically couldn't comprehend total defeat until experiencing it firsthand. At 12:01 a.m., Franklin sent a single text message to Skye. "Execute Rubicon." Within hours, the final phase began. Monarch Holdings filed for immediate foreclosure on all Westcott medical properties. At the same time, digital proof of Preston's participation in fraudulent medical billing, evidence that Franklin had been concealing, was sent anonymously to federal prosecutors, eliminating any possibility that the investigation would be dismissed as a simple error. By morning, trading of Westcott healthcare stock was halted temporarily because of extreme price swings. By the afternoon, the board of directors had convened an emergency meeting to discuss removing Preston from his position. Franklin watched these events unfold from his office, his focus split between the collapse of the Westcott empire and a possible personal security risk. Although Erica's warning about Sam was self-serving, it matched the risk profiles compiled by his security team. Sam had skipped his last 2 medical board hearings, withdrawn substantial sums of cash, and ceased using his cell phone, behavioral warning signs that pointed to someone preparing to take extreme measures. "We've increased patrols and revised your secure transportation procedures," his head of security informed him. "All homes and offices now have upgraded surveillance." Franklin gave his approval. "Your parents, your father especially, insist they don't require protection in Ohio, but we've positioned a team close by as a precaution." The personal danger became real that evening when Sam Westcott evaded the outer security at Franklin's Malibu property by approaching from the beach during a shift change in patrols, a weakness Franklin had noted but not yet fixed. Security cameras recorded Sam scaling the sea wall, obviously drunk and clutching something inside his jacket. The system immediately notified Franklin, who was working late in his downtown office. "You need to evacuate the house," his security lead insisted over the emergency channel. "We are 8 minutes away." "No," Franklin responded calmly. "Maintain distance, but keep him in sight. I will handle this personally." "Sir, that violates every protocol." "He isn't here to damage property," Franklin cut in. "He wants a confrontation. Let's not disappoint him." Franklin activated his home's lockdown mode from a remote location, confining Sam's movements to the main floor while dispatching his helicopter for a quick return. 20 minutes later, he touched down on his private helipad and entered the house through a hidden access point, reaching his security center before facing the intruder. The monitors displayed Sam in Franklin's study, drunkenly searching through desk drawers while occasionally checking his watch, indicating he might be expecting someone or operating on a schedule. Franklin chose to arm himself with information rather than weapons. Thermal imaging revealed an object in Sam's jacket consistent with a handgun, an expected but troubling discovery, and his unsteady motions indicated severe emotional turmoil or heavy intoxication. When Franklin stepped into the study, Sam spun around, briefly startled, then recovered with a bitter laugh. "Finally facing me directly, Caldwell?" He pulled the gun from his jacket, aiming it shakily. No more hiding behind lawyers and corporate tricks. Franklin stayed in the doorway, hands visible. Breaking into a home armed with a weapon carries serious legal consequences. "Sam, even for a Westcott." Sam's laugh bordered on hysteria. "You've already ruined everything. My career, my family's legacy, all because you couldn't accept that Erica chose me." "This was never about Erica," Franklin replied evenly. "This was about your family's effort to dismantle what I built. Erica was simply your accomplice." Sam's hand trembled slightly. "My father had the right idea. People like you, from nowhere, with nothing, need to learn your place." "And where exactly is my place in your worldview?" "Serving families like yours," Sam snarled. "Providing your skills and innovations for our benefit, grateful for the chance, not by constructing rival empires." Franklin observed the man before him, privileged, entitled, and genuinely confused that someone he viewed as inferior had not only resisted but prevailed. "That's the core difference between us," Franklin remarked. "You think your name entitles you to what others build. I believe we earn our place through what we create and defend." Sam moved closer, brandishing the gun. "Philosophical until the end. Let's see what your creation is worth when you're gone." "Do you honestly believe I wouldn't be prepared for this?" Franklin asked quietly. "Every word is being recorded. My security team has the property surrounded. There is no situation in which you leave here having improved your position." Doubt crossed Sam's face. "You're bluffing, just like you bluffed about Erica loving you. She contacted me yesterday, warning me about your instability. She's already arranging her next move now that the Westcott fortune is disappearing." The revelation visibly struck Sam. "You're lying. Check your phone. She's been trying to reach you, probably to create distance before you do something irreversible." When Sam instinctively reached for his phone, Franklin pressed a hidden button. The study doors slammed shut and locked automatically as gas deployed from concealed vents, a non-lethal sedative Franklin had installed after a previous corporate espionage attempt. Sam fired wildly, the bullet embedding in the wall as he succumbed to the fast-acting compound. By the time security personnel entered wearing protective gear, he lay unconscious on the imported carpet, the gun secured several feet away. "Transfer him to the secure facility," Franklin instructed his team. "Full medical monitoring, no communication devices." "Sir, this is kidnapping," his security lead cautioned. "We should contact the authorities." "It's a citizen's arrest following an armed home invasion," Franklin corrected. "We will contact the authorities after I finish managing the situation." As Sam was removed, Franklin made 2 calls. The first was to Audrey Westcott. "Your brother is in my custody after an armed intrusion into my home," he stated without introduction. "He is unharmed but sedated. What happens next depends on your father's actions within the next hour." "What do you want?" Audrey asked, her voice strained but rational. The original settlement terms, plus Preston's immediate resignation from all positions. No public resistance, no further delays. His second call was to Preston directly. You've lost, Preston. Your company is collapsing, federal charges are imminent, and now your son has committed felony breaking and entering with a deadly weapon. But there is still a path where your daughter salvages something from the wreckage. Preston's voice sounded suddenly aged. Where is Sam? Safe for now. Make the right decision, and he receives treatment instead of prosecution. Continue fighting, and I release everything. The recordings of your planning sessions, Sam's attack tonight. All of it. The silence lasted several seconds before Preston spoke again. You never intended to compromise, did you? This was always your plan. No, Preston, this was your plan. I merely ensured you experienced its full consequences. Chapter 8. The reckoning. Sophia broke over Los Angeles as news alerts chimed across the city. Westcott Healthcare announces major restructuring. Founder steps down, daughter takes helm. The accompanying press release included Preston Westcott's retirement for health reasons, the appointment of Audrey Westcott as CEO, and a carefully phrased apology for recent misunderstandings with business partners. For those in financial circles, the subtext was clear: complete surrender. Franklin monitored the coverage from his downtown office, where he had been working through the night finalizing details with his legal team. Sam Westcott had been quietly transferred to a private rehabilitation facility after signing comprehensive non-disclosure and non-aggression agreements, essentially legal surrender documents, in exchange for Franklin declining to press charges for the break-in. Westcott stock is stabilizing with Audrey's appointment, Sky reported, watching the financial terminals. The market seems cautiously optimistic about her leadership. Franklin nodded, unsurprised. She was always the competent one. Their father chose the wrong successor. The intercom buzzed. Sir, Audrey Westcott is here for your meeting. When Audrey entered, her composure was remarkable given the circumstances. Dressed in a conservative business suit with minimal jewelry, she carried herself with the dignity her father and brother had abandoned. Thank you for seeing me, she began, taking the offered seat. I wanted to personally assure you that the transition is proceeding according to our agreement. Franklin studied her carefully. Your brother is receiving treatment. Yes, the doctors believe his breakdown resulted from prescription medication mixed with alcohol, worsened by stress. She maintained steady eye contact. I want to be clear. While I'm implementing your terms, I don't condone my family's actions or excuse them, nor am I here seeking mercy. Then why are you here, Miss Westcott? To understand my opponent, she replied candidly. My father and brother misunderstood you fundamentally. They saw only your success, not the journey that created it. I won't make the same mistake. Franklin allowed himself a small, genuine smile. Refreshingly direct. The Westcott name might survive after all, with you at the helm. That's my intention. But I need to know, is this truly the end? Once our agreement is fully implemented, will you consider the matter resolved? The question hung between them, heavy with implications. Franklin had spent months orchestrating the Westcott downfall, dedicating countless resources to ensuring they experienced total defeat. Yet, looking at Audrey, the innocent party in her family's schemes, he recognized something of himself, someone determined to build rather than merely inherit. My conflict was never with you, he finally answered. Honor the agreement, reform your family's business practices, and our companies need not be enemies. Relief flickered briefly across her composed features. And what of Erica? She's irrelevant to our arrangement. Audrey nodded, understanding the dismissal in his tone. She's contacted me 3 times since yesterday. Apparently, she's very concerned about Sam's well-being now that her other options have evaporated. Franklin's expression revealed nothing, but internally he felt the last emotional tie to his former wife dissolve. Her concern comes remarkably late. As Audrey departed with formal handshakes and carefully worded commitments, Franklin turned his attention to the final piece of unfinished business. Erica had been notably absent from recent events, attempting to distance herself from the Westcott implosion while undoubtedly seeking new opportunities. His phone showed 7 missed calls from her since Sam's apprehension. He had no intention of returning them. Instead, he called his mother. It's finished, Mom, he said when she answered. They've accepted all terms. Sadie Caldwell's sigh carried both relief and lingering anger. And are you finished too? The question penetrated deeper than she likely intended. Franklin had achieved his objective. The Westcotts neutralized, his company secure, his betrayers facing proportional consequences. Yet victory felt hollow, without something new to build toward. I've been so focused on responding to their attack that I haven't considered what comes next, he admitted. Then it's time you did, Sadie replied pragmatically. Revenge sustains you through the fight, Franklin, but it can't nourish a life afterward. After ending the call, Franklin stood at his office windows, overlooking the city he had conquered through intelligence and determination. For months, his purpose had been singular: ensure the Westcotts and Erica paid for their betrayal. With that accomplished, an unfamiliar emptiness stretched before him. Sky interrupted his reflection. Final reports are in. All Westcott assets have been transferred according to the agreement. Preston's resignation is official, and Sam has checked into treatment. Digital surveillance confirms Erica has vacated her temporary housing and appears to be leaving the state, headed to New York, according to her purchases and hotel reservation. She's apparently pursuing reconnection with a college friend who has banking connections. Franklin nodded, unsurprised that Erica was already seeking her next opportunity. Maintain passive monitoring only. She's no longer a priority. For the first time in months, Franklin left the office early, driving the coastal highway with no particular destination. The setting sun cast long shadows across the Pacific, reminding him of evenings before betrayal had consumed his focus. When his phone rang with Erica's number again, he finally answered. What do you want, Erica? Her voice carried practiced vulnerability. Franklin, please. You've won. Everything's been destroyed. The Westcotts, my reputation, my future here. Isn't that enough? Was it ever about winning for you? He asked, genuine curiosity tempering his coldness. Or simply about upgrading to what you perceived as a better option? It wasn't that simple, she protested. Ben and I had history. His family pressured both of us. Things got complicated. No, Franklin interrupted. They really didn't. You made choices knowing the consequences they would have for me. The complexity is an excuse you've created to justify betrayal. The silence stretched between them before Erica spoke again, her voice hardening slightly. So that's it. No possibility of forgiveness. No acknowledgement that people make mistakes. Forgiveness requires repentance, Erica. You're only sorry about the outcome, not your actions. Franklin pulled his car over at a scenic overlook, watching waves crash against the cliffs below. But I'm grateful. Confusion colored her voice. Grateful. Your betrayal revealed truths I needed to understand. About you, about the world I've built, and about myself. I won't forgive you, but I no longer need to punish you either. Your life is your own. Now I suggest you build something real with it. He ended the call before she could respond, silencing her number permanently. As he turned his attention back to the horizon, the emptiness he'd felt earlier began to transform into something different. Not quite peace, but possibility. Chapter 9. Rebuilding 1 year after the Christmas revelation, Franklin stood on his parents' front porch watching snow fall in gentle swirls. The modest Ohio home remained unchanged, a constant in a year of transformation. Inside, his mother arranged freshly baked cookies on a holiday platter while his father tended the fireplace. Neither mentioned the previous Christmas's dramatics. They had collectively decided that particular tradition need not be repeated. The expansion in Singapore exceeded projections, Franklin explained as they settled into the living room. And the new cybersecurity division has government contracts through 2027. Mike nodded approvingly. And the Westcott situation? Resolved completely. Audrey has restructured their organization into something respectable. Preston retired to their Arizona property. Sam completed treatment and moved to Europe to practice medicine under supervision. And Erica? Sadie asked carefully. Franklin shrugged. Working at an investment firm in Manhattan, according to Sky's last report. Dating a hedge fund manager, apparently happy. What he didn't add was that he no longer required these reports. Monitoring Erica had become irrelevant to his life, an unnecessary connection to a chapter he'd closed. The conversation shifted to local news and family matters, comfortable in its normality. Later, after his parents had retired for the evening, Franklin sat alone by the Christmas tree, reflecting on the year's journey from betrayal to resolution. The relentless drive that had fueled his reaction to the Westcott assault still resided within him. a potential for measured retaliation that had astonished even his closest allies. But it no longer governed his thoughts or strategies. His phone vibrated with an incoming message from Sky. Audrey Westcott had made contact, suggesting cooperation on the hospital security project, which was an idea worth evaluating. A year earlier, any alliance with a person bearing the Westcott name would have been inconceivable. Now, Franklin acknowledged the strategic advantage and valued the poetic justice of constructing something beneficial from the remnants of conflict. He responded, "Arrange a meeting for January at a neutral site." As he set down his phone, Franklin observed a small parcel beneath the tree that had not been present before. The tag stated simply, "To remind you of what truly matters, from Mom and Dad." Inside rested a framed photograph he had never encountered, depicting himself at 10 years old, standing triumphantly beside a first-place science fair project. His parents stood on either side, their faces beaming with absolute pride and encouragement. Beside the picture was a handwritten note in his father's sharp penmanship. "You have demonstrated your ability to endure any treachery and conquer any foe. Now, demonstrate that you can construct a life deserving of that survival. With everlasting love, Dad." Franklin positioned the frame meticulously on the mantelpiece, arranging it near the firelight, which brightened the visages of his younger self and his parents. The harsh gratification of vengeance had carried him through months of deliberate conflict against those who had sought to ruin him. His adversaries had received a painful education in misjudging someone they deemed inferior. Yet, his parents' present recalled an essential reality. Destruction, no matter how warranted, ultimately yields nothing. His genuine legacy would be forged not by the foes he vanquished, but by what he established in the wake of his triumphs. In the aftermath, standing solitary in the hushed tranquility of Christmas Eve, Franklin Caldwell pledged silently to himself. The mercilessness that had ensured his survival would persist as a fundamental strength for which he would never express regret, but it would now be directed toward creation instead of ruin. Those who had betrayed him had settled their debt completely. Justice had been administered with exacting precision, and now a different form of strength was necessary. As snow continued to descend outside, blanketing the scenery in pristine potential, Franklin stood devising his next endeavor. And so concludes another narrative. What were your impressions? I would be delighted to hear your opinions in the comments section below. If you appreciated this story, think about becoming part of our community by subscribing. Your support is incredibly meaningful to us for additional tales like this. Explore the suggested videos displayed on screen, and I will meet you there.